So I first heard about Real Options from my wife, Maureen. We had come back from Europe where we had been missionaries from 1985 to 1990, and we were raising our children. And when they got old enough to be in school, she had some free time, and so she decided she wanted to volunteer, and she wanted to volunteer at the pregnancy center to be a counselor for young women who came in looking for the services and to help them through their pregnancy. So before that, before we went to Europe, we were youth pastors in the early 80s at Calvary Chapel in San Jose. And so we've always had, a heart to work with young people. So it's kind of natural for her to want to work with young women that would come into the center. And when she told me about it, I thought it was terrific. I kind of felt that I was, drawn to the ministry because of my personal history. I was adopted, and the story my birth father told me, whom I met just a few years ago, was that he took my mother from the Bay Area all the way up to Oregon because abortion was illegal back then, and they went to a doctor's office who was performing abortions out the back door. And my mother was 17 and he was 24, and they knocked on the door, or they were about to knock on the door, and then my mother turned to him and said, "I can't do this, I'm not going to do this." And so I naturally have an affinity for pro-life, and so that got me interested in joining up and finding out what I could do. And so that's how I got involved, and I became involved in the education part of Real Options.
Excellent. Talk a little bit more about your role and your involvement with the ministry now.
Mm-hmm. So right now, I'm recently have become a board member, which is great. Prior to that, I had served in the past, and then recently I started serving again in the education department. And yeah, it's really great. We get to go out to schools and talk to kids. Sometimes we'll have some talks with parents. But the main thing is to offer them an alternative to the sex education they're getting in the schools through groups like Planned Parenthood. And they have what you call an SRR, sexual risk reduction type of curriculum, which normalizes them trying out risky sexual behavior and also normalizes abortion. And in fact, it's funny, 40% of kids 15 through 17 who've been through those education classes say they actually feel pressured to have sex after they've been to those classes. So that's the degree to which they try to normalize it. And of course, that they're doing that to push their agenda, but also to make a profit. Because if they can normalize sex, they can have new clients. Because teens tend to be forgetful, and so if they're inconsistent in their contraception, or even if they're using it properly, they can become pregnant, and then they can become clients, to abortion providers. So they have a monetary, motivation as well. So yeah, really excited about what we do, which is go out and we have a curriculum that we call a sexual risk avoidance curriculum. And basically, we just believe that kids are smart enough to make a plan for their life, and given the facts, they'll want to avoid negative consequences of their choices. So where Planned Parenthood and the California Youth Act and that type of curriculum, basically I call it the soft bigotry of low expectations. They basically just expect kids to make the wrong or the easy decision, where we believe kids are smart and they can and will self-regulate and make good decisions for their future. In fact, 70% of students 15 to 17 have not had sex, which is, the facts are completely contrary to the narrative that is being pushed in our schools today. So we get to get out and share that narrative. We help them create, I would say, like a vision board for their life. Like, we emphasize self-efficacy, that they can make choices, just like you're going to make choices to go to college. Like, I'm going to get certain grades, I'm going to, maybe volunteer, I'm going to make, I'm going to do certain things so I will be more attractive to a college. In the same way, there's things you do and don't do if your vision is to have a certain type of relationship. And we try to push and show them from research-based information that marriage is the optimal, healthy context for sex and relationships. And they're able to make a vision board of how they want to develop their lives and their vocations and their interpersonal skills and be the kind of person that can have a happy, successful relationship. And we empower them to make those good decisions, and we believe they're able to do that. And it's really exciting to see them get excited about that and to feel someone believes in them and their ability to make some good decisions. And none of the students I've talked to have ever had a high school pregnancy or STD on their vision board. They're smarter than that, and when you give them the facts, and some simple facts are especially for at-risk kids, that's important to know that if they do three simple things, if they complete their high school education, if they get a full-time job, and then they don't have children until after they're married, that they only have a 3% chance of living in poverty. So there's a 97% success rate for people who do those three simple things. And so we want to encourage kids to do those things, and it's a powerful message. And kids are smart enough if they're given the chance, but if they're not given the chance to get this message, and we need to get this message into churches as much as into public schools, because they need to hear this message there too. But if they don't get this message, we're depriving them from an opportunity that could really set them ahead in life. And so it's really important to get this out.
Man, that's awesome. That is awesome. So describe the vision, the mission, or the heartbeat of Real Options.
Well, I think Real Options' big vision is to promote a culture and a consciousness of life. And 156 years ago, slavery became illegal. But now, slavery's unthinkable. I think everybody would agree with that. Now with Black Lives Matter, thank God, racism is now becoming unthinkable. And so our organization wants to do the same thing, that Black Lives Matter, unborn lives matter. And we want to educate people with the scientific research-based facts of life, where abortion will not only be, abortion on demand will not only be illegal, but it'll be unthinkable because people know the facts. And so that's kind of, I believe, the core is to create a vision and information and truth behind life and God's design for it. And then, and two, this is important too with our education when we're trying to give kids optimal health choices in their relationships and sex, as well as people who come to the clinics. When people have made mistakes, life's not over. God's the God of second chances, and they can still fulfill their dreams for life. And so we have a practical chance to help women who come in and who are pregnant, and to give them practical help, medical help, prenatal vitamins, etc. And we're creating pro-life women's health centers that encompasses the whole person, that's non-judgmental, that's loving, that's just putting out the facts to help people live the best, most healthy life possible.
How's the Lord using this ministry to help share the gospel, evangelize a bit, and promote some discipleship?
Well, I forget who it was. I think it was St. Francis who said, preach the gospel always, and if you have to, use words. And so we use both our words to proclaim the truth of the gospel, but also our works. And nobody can deny, we're still open during COVID helping our patients. And I know all my personal doctors are closed. So people see that we love them. We're non-judgmental. We want to help them. We're not pushing religion. We're just pushing science, research-based facts that they need to be aware of. And I think the statistic is 85% of women who actually are able to see the child inside of them via the I forget what those machines are called we use. A sonogram? I don't know. I have a brain thing. Anyways, decide to keep the child because when they see it, there's that real life connection to what's really in them is life, and it's their child. And so, anyways, we try to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, sonogram. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So, talk about ways people can get involved and support Real Options.
Well, I think it's really important now to get a lot of financial support. I mean, now people connect via the internet, via social media, and Donna is just a fabulous person who's doing the marketing and getting the message out there. But we have to fight to get, so when people put a question into Google, the answers, including us as an option. And so to do that, we need a lot of money for marketing, to get the message out. We need money for the educational part. And most importantly, for the women's health centers, we have full-time nurses, we have staff, we have a supervising doctor. We need people's financial support. So, what's dear to God's heart is life, and helping people promote healthy life and to prosper. And so it's a great place to invest. And then we need people with all different kinds of skills to volunteer, whether it's as counselors, as administrative people, as educators. So it's I just find it's a great place to get out on the front lines where really the church should be, but the church often is not. It's a very dangerous place when you start talking about these subjects. And I think a lot of church leaders are afraid of the repercussions of this type of thing, but it is the front lines. It's where we need to fight. Our Becca Cha, our director of education, last month did a webinar on parenting and discipling children in an over-sexualized culture. And she addressed, gender identity issues and kind of the curriculum that's being taught with the California Youth Act that are encouraging children to keep secrets from their parents. That, you can trust us, but not your parents. We understand you, so, come to us. And they're trying to hijack our kids and the role of the parents in educating them. And really, because parents are the kids' best advocates. Parents, who wants what's best for their children more than parents? Nobody. And they know that, so they're trying to separate us from that. And so, Becca's doing a wonderful job bringing up these current issues. I know in my church there was a young couple, really a poster couple, involved in all the outreach. Their kids were wonderful. I loved their daughter. And when her daughter went to junior high school, she met a group of new friends and decided she was a boy. And then before you know it, she was on hormone therapy. She was with a counselor who was a trans counselor, and there was so much momentum. By the time the dad kind of turned around and realized what was happening, he really was fighting an uphill battle. And if we could equip parents, and I would say starting in the church, but just society at large, how to help their children navigate the difficult questions of life today would be important. But supporting Real Options, we're talking about those difficult issues. We're equipping parents, giving them tools to be able to talk to their children about these issues. And it's an area where the church does not have a strong voice. And so if you believe in these things and you want to help parents protect their kids, at least till their kids, the human mind is not fully developed till the mid-20s. The frontal cortex, that's the part of the brain where you can look at short-term decisions versus long-term consequences. That's why kids need parents. And so if you want to help parents shepherd their kids until the point where they're able to navigate these things well on their own, you need to support Real Options.
Amen. Why do you do what you do?
Because God put it in me. And I think I've shared my past. It's a real life passion. I'm glad I'm alive. My son told me a story where there was a motorcycle accident, and he ran out there, and the guy on the ground was drowning in his own blood. So he turned his head and evacuated the blood to help him breathe until the paramedics came. And I bring that story up because if my 17-year-old mother hadn't made the decision she made in Oregon 58 years ago and said, no, I'm not going to do this, that there's a good chance that guy would have died. And so you never know the repercussions of your life. It's like It's a Wonderful Life. And so, I believe I'm here for a purpose. I believe everybody is. And I think that I have a testimony and a story to share.
That's awesome. Revelations 12:11, they overcame the evil one by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. What does that verse mean for you?
First of all, Jesus shed his blood. I had a vision recently, just a few days ago. Not that I have lots of visions, so it was kind of unusual, but it was like the Sherman Williams paint where you see the globe and the red paint covering the whole globe. And I just felt like the Lord showed me that he shed his blood and he's pouring it out over the whole world. And just like COVID-19 is going over the whole world, I just believe God wants to bring revival right now in this time over the whole world. And he shed his blood over the whole world for everybody, that every sickness could be healed, every sin could be forgiven, every captive could be set free, every broken heart could be healed. And it's Jesus. He does it all and he's done it all. And that's what that verse means to me.
Very good. Final question. Is there anything else the Lord put on your heart to share with us today?
No, just that I love you guys, everybody who's listening. Just really want to encourage you to get involved in this battle. We're fighting for our kids, especially if you live in California. The California Youth Act, I mean, look it up. It is just so demonic. It is so undermining our kids, and they're helpless. I mean, they're being exposed to things that they would never think of. I mean, 7th graders should not be exposed to anal sex. And not only that, to resources of where to get the condoms and what kind of lube to use. You know what I mean? It is ridiculous. Their minds aren't even prepared for it. It's traumatic for them. And this is not, somebody who is molesting a child. It's a teacher who's, usually it's not a teacher, it's usually somebody they bring in who's promoting this kind of thing. And it's just oftentimes not age appropriate. It's traumatizing for the kids. And it's just plain bad information a lot of the time. And I'm not saying there's not a lot of people trying to do good and believe they're doing good, but there's a lot of kids being traumatized, and the church needs to stand up and intervene, and the church also needs to fight this battle for its own families.